All right, welcome to another deep dive. You know how this works. We take something that feels big and complicated, maybe something that's been stressing you out, and we dig into some of the best thinking on the topic, and then we pull out the stuff that's actually going to make a difference in your life.
Exactly. We cut through all the noise and get right to the heart of it.
So today we're going deep on stress and time management. And our trusty guide for this journey is Brian Lomas's book, Easy Step-by-Step Guide to Stress and Time Management, a classic that first hit the shelves back in 2000.
Wow, 2000. That's before smartphones took over the world. I bet a lot has changed since then.
Oh, for sure. But the thing about stress and feeling overwhelmed, it seems like that's just a timeless human struggle.
Absolutely.
And Lomas brings a really interesting perspective because he's not just some academic who studied this stuff in a vacuum. He's a business consultant and trainer now, but he spent years in the trenches of retail management. Like, we're talking over 100 locations, more than 1,000 people reporting to him, and responsible for over 400 million in annual turnover.
He even headed up UK business development and marketing for a major high street retailer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's seen his fair share of pressure.
And it's actually that experience, like being right in the thick of it, that led him to write this book. He actually went through a pretty intense period of burnout, which forced him to reevaluate his whole approach to work and life.
It's like they say, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to really make a change.
Totally. So today, we're going to pull out some of Lomas's most practical, actionable insights on how to manage stress and time more effectively. But we're not going to bombard you with a million tips and tricks that you'll never remember.
It's about finding those key strategies that can actually fit into your real life.
Right, because who has time for another complicated system that just adds more stress?
No one.
Exactly. So let's dive in. Right off the bat, Lomas hits you with this fundamental idea about time. He calls it a wasting asset. And I remember reading that the first time, and it was like, whoa, that really hit me.
Because we tend to think of time as something we have, something we can't control, but it's really constantly slipping away from us.
Yeah, it's like sand through your fingers, right? And Lomas isn't saying you have to be productive every single second of the day, but he really emphasizes being intentional about how you spend your time. Like, are you using those precious minutes in a way that actually brings you joy or gets you closer to your goals?
And that's where the link to stress starts to become clear. When you feel like you're constantly chasing the clock, that you're not in control of how your time is being used, that's a recipe for stress.
Oh, absolutely. It's that feeling of overwhelm, like you're always playing catch up and never quite getting ahead. And honestly, how many times have you picked up a time management book, maybe even felt super inspired to implement all the things, and then life throws you a curveball and the whole system falls apart?
It happens to the best of us. You get a last-minute project dumped on your desk, or a family emergency pops up, and suddenly all those beautifully color-coded to-do lists are just mocking you from the corner.
I've been there.
And then you feel even more stressed because you're like, great, I can't even manage my time properly.
So Lomas kind of flips the script on traditional time management. He says it's not really about managing time itself because, well, time marches on regardless of what we do, right? Instead, he says it's about managing people's use of time. And a huge part of that is managing expectations.
And not just the expectations that other people have of us, but also, and maybe even more importantly, the expectations we put on ourselves.
Which are often way too high, am I right?
So often.
Yeah.
And that's where the self-discipline piece comes in, being able to honestly assess what we can realistically achieve, and also being able to say no to things that are going to stretch us too thin.
Okay, so we've got to talk about stress itself. Lomas actually makes this interesting distinction between good stress and bad stress.
Yeah, because not all stress is created equal.
Right. Like, think about the stress of an upcoming presentation or performance. That can be a good kind of stress, right?
Yeah.
It can push you to prepare, to focus, to do your best.
It's that little extra push we sometimes need to get us out of our comfort zones and achieve something great.
Totally. And Lomas even uses this phrase, a life with little risk is a risk of little life, which I thought was pretty powerful.
It is. Because if we're not challenging ourselves, if we're not taking any risks, are we really, truly living?
But of course, there's the flip side. There's the kind of stress that just weighs you down, makes you feel anxious, and can even start to affect your health.
And that's where we really need to get a handle on.
And Lomas defines stress really simply. Stress is a reaction to something causing you to feel negative.
And what's interesting is that the something that's causing the stress doesn't even have to have happened yet.
Yeah, like you could be stressing about a deadline that's weeks away, or a potential problem that might never even materialize.
It's often the anticipation, the worry, that's the real culprit.
And this is where time management comes back into the picture. Because when you feel like you're out of control of your time, when you're constantly juggling a million things and feeling like you're never going to get it all done, that's a major source of stress.
Totally. It's that feeling of being overwhelmed, like you're drowning in to-dos.
Exactly. So being able to manage your time effectively can definitely help reduce some of that stress. But, and this is a big but,
Stress isn't always caused by poor time management.
right, you could be the most organized person in the world and still experience a ton of stress.
It could be coming from your relationships, your finances, your health, or even just a general sense of uncertainty about the future.
So time management is a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole picture.
It's about understanding where your stress is really coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts with self-awareness.
Self-awareness, yes.
Right.
That's like the foundation of everything, right? Totally. And Lomas really emphasizes the importance of identifying your personal stress triggers. Like, what are the specific situations or demands that tend to set you off? What are your typical reactions to stress? Do you get headaches? Do you withdraw socially? Do you start snapping at people? And he also encourages you to pay attention to what's become your normal, because sometimes we get so used to operating at a certain level of stress that we don't even realize how much it's affecting us.
It's like, this is just how I am. But maybe that how you are is actually causing you a lot of unnecessary suffering.
And then there's the whole issue of expectations, which we touched on earlier. Lomas really shines a light on the powerful role that expectations play as drivers of stress.
Both the expectations that other people have of us and the expectations we have of ourselves.
And on the external expectations front, Loomis has some really practical advice. He says when you're faced with a request or a demand from someone, don't just assume you know what they want.
Ask for clarification. Make sure you understand exactly what the desired outcome is, what the deadline is, and what level of detail is expected.
And then, and this is a big one, he says learn to say no.
Which can be so hard for some people, Greg, especially if you're a people pleaser.
But Lomas emphasizes that saying no isn't about being selfish or unhelpful. It's about protecting your time and energy so you can focus on the things that are truly important to you.
And he suggests doing it directly, without getting bogged down in excuses. Just a clear and simple no.
Like, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not able to take that on right now.
Exactly. And if you feel like you need to soften the blow a little, you can always offer an alternative solution or suggest someone else who might be a better fit.
Now, on the self-expectation side, it's all about getting real with yourself. Like, are you setting realistic goals? Are you giving yourself enough time to complete tasks? Are you constantly comparing yourself to others and coming up short?
That can be a real killer. Social media doesn't help with that either.
Oh, for sure. It's so easy to get caught up in the highlight reel of everyone else's lives and feel like you're not measuring up.
So it's about being kind to yourself, acknowledging your limitations and celebrating your accomplishments, even the small ones.
Okay, so let's move on to the proactive side of stress in time management. Lomas is big on anticipating potential problems before they even arise.
Yeah, that's where contingency planning comes in. Like, what could realistically go wrong in a given situation and what's your backup plan?
And then there's preventive action. What can you do beforehand to minimize the chances of those problems even occurring in the first place?
Like if you know that you always get slammed with work on Mondays, maybe you block off an hour on Sunday afternoon to get a head start.
Exactly. And then there's this idea of dedicated proactive thinking time, which sounds a bit counterintuitive when you're already feeling short on time.
But Lomas argues that taking even a short break, like 15 minutes, to just sit and think strategically about your day or week can actually save you a ton of time and stress in the long run.
It's like investing a little time up front to avoid major headaches later on.
Exactly. And a key part of that proactive approach is identifying and eliminating wasted time.
And again, this isn't about feeling guilty for taking breaks. It's about being honest with yourself about how you're actually spending your time.
Like, are you mindlessly scrolling through social media for an hour when you could be doing something more productive or enjoyable?
Or are you getting bogged down in unnecessary meetings or email chains that could have been avoided with a quick phone call?
It's about being mindful of where your time is going and making conscious choices about how you want to use it.
Now, when it comes to actually structuring your day, Lomas recommends finding one method for task management that works for you and sticking with it.
Whether that's a simple to-do list, a digital calendar, or one of those fancy bullet journals.
The key is to find something that helps you stay organized and on top of your commitments without feeling overwhelmed.
And he also talks about the importance of creating what he calls stress-free corridors of time.
Which are basically little pockets of time in your day where you can just decompress and recharge.
It could be as simple as taking 5 minutes to step away from your desk and go for a walk, or listening to a calming piece of music.
Yeah, even just closing your eyes and taking a few deep breaths can make a huge difference.
And then there's the whole issue of multitasking, which Lomas is not a fan of.
He actually recommends finishing tasks once you've started them, whenever possible, because jumping back and forth between multiple unfinished tasks can really fragment your focus and actually make you less productive in the long run.
And that can lead to feeling even more stressed and overwhelmed.
So focus on one thing at a time, get it done, and then move on to the next thing.
And speaking of getting things done, realistic time estimation is crucial. Lomas even suggests keeping a log of how long it actually takes you to complete certain tasks so you can make more accurate estimates in the future.
Because we tend to underestimate how long things will take, right?
Oh, all the time.
And then we end up feeling rushed and stressed. And of course, managing interruptions is essential. Whether it's emails, phone calls, or colleagues popping by your desk, those little distractions can really throw you off track.
So maybe you set aside specific times in your day for checking email and returning calls, or you put on headphones to signal to people that you're trying to focus.
Whatever works for you, the key is to be proactive about minimizing those interruptions so you can get your work done.
And finally, we come to the all-important topic of prioritization. How do you decide what to focus on when you're constantly being bombarded with demands?
Well, Lomas outlines various techniques and frameworks for prioritizing tasks.
Like the Eisenhower matrix, where you categorize tasks based on their urgency and importance, which can help you decide what to do now, what to delegate, what to schedule for later, and what to just let go of.
He also stresses the importance of being flexible and adapting your priorities as needed, because sometimes life throws you a curveball and you have to adjust your plans.
And he reminds us to prioritize our well-being and relationships, not just work deadlines, because those things are ultimately what matter most in life.
So all of these individual strategies that we've talked about, they all contribute to what Lomas calls a complete way of thinking.
It's about taking a holistic approach to managing stress and time so you can achieve both success and happiness.
And he introduces this concept called the Wheel of Life as a tool for assessing your overall balance and satisfaction across different areas of your life.
Like career, relationships, health, finances, personal growth, and so on.
And he emphasizes the importance of self-care, taking care of your physical and mental health.
Because you can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. And Lomas also reminds us to celebrate our accomplishments, no matter how small, and to actively cultivate happiness in our daily lives.
It's not just about getting things done, it's about enjoying the journey.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Brian Lomas's easy step-by-step guide to stress and time management, here's a final thought for you to ponder.
Consider one area of your life where you feel a lack of control.
And think about one small proactive step you could take this week to reclaim a little bit of that control.
It could be as simple as setting aside 15 minutes each day for proactive thinking time, or blocking off an hour on your calendar for uninterrupted work.
Or maybe it's saying no to one commitment that's been weighing you down.
Whatever it is, remember that even small changes can make a big difference in reducing your stress and improving your overall well-being.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.